But if we take care of us, then I think people naturally sort of look at that and say, man, I kind of want to figure out what they're doing. Maybe I can adopt some of that into my life.
So even that, like that comparison is like, hey, I want what you got now. I'm gonna do 20 minute meditation, and I'll get to where you are. That's
Mm,
unrealistic. Realistically, like it's just unrealistic for us to like really want. Like it could take some time. So comparing yourself to other people is not helpful. Like it's really just not helpful. But it is like something that I do love about social media is that it can serve as a way to highlight something that you might want for yourself. You might see someone who's like, oh wow, like they went through this really hard situation
mm.
and they're still living their life. They're still happy. They're still adding value to other people. Like, how can I get that?
So what I say is, let's not go around and try to tell people what they need to do. Let's live a lifestyle that we feel is healthiest for us. And perhaps other people around us will be curious and inquire, what are you doing that has you living this type of lifestyle? Because you clearly seem like you're enjoying yourself.
Mm.
There's a lot of dark stuff going on, but you seem like it's easier for you to finesse your way through this. What do you do? And then now we have a beautiful moment to have a conversation where I can share with you, well, I do these things and I've been working on this and I've been changing this about myself. And slowly but surely, like, okay, maybe I'm a little more receptive. I'm willing to listen to what you're saying, as opposed to me trying to proclaim that something's fundamentally wrong with you and you need to go do this, this, and this to get your life together.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think people tend to respond well to that. So we shouldn't try to approach them in that way. But if we take care of us, then I think people naturally sort of look at that and say, man, I kind of want to figure out what they're doing. Maybe I can adopt some of that into my life. So
Definitely. And honestly, like we're all about being vulnerable here, but I get a lot of people who follow me here on Instagram and come to me and basically, and usually do what we've recommended in past podcasts, kind of compare themselves to me and start saying like, oh, like I've been through this hardship and like it seems like you went through the same hardship. Like I think I was talking to a friend about breakup. And we kind of ended our relationship around the same time.
yeah.
And she mentioned, hey, like you're handling this so well, like you just seem so happy, you do all this stuff, and because I walk it like I talk it, I was able to talk to her about like, hey, what are you doing to deal with this feeling? What kind of inner work are you doing to actually create that healing that we need? What does your support system look like? And for most of those questions, she was like, "Oh, not much." Like, and she's not the only one. I've had other friends as well. That's just the most recent example. But kind of realizing that, hey, like, I didn't just like get here. Like, it wasn't like I had to go through those feelings. I had to do the crying. I had to do the hard conversations with the people I trust that I know are going to help me.
Yeah.
And sharing that with her really helped her like kind of open up her perspective and realize like, hey, like I have some work to do. Like me sitting and dwelling on these feelings is not really going to make this go away. And I was able to bring those up in a more easier way because I'm doing it. It's not something that I'm just like, oh yeah, like it seems like you need to do some meditation. Like, no, like this is what I did that really helped me to be this joyful person, to be this person who's filled with vitality and energy and happiness, and seeing the positive of the situation that could be seen as something that's really dark or negative or whatever it might be. How did I shift those paradigms within myself? But I was only able to do that because I've been doing the work, and not for months, for years I've been doing the work. So even that, like that comparison is like, hey, I want what you got now. I'm gonna do 20 minute meditation, and I'll get to where you are. that's unrealistic. Realistically, like it's just unrealistic for us to like really want. Like it could take some time. Um,
Absolutely.
and some of us have a lot of work to do. So comparing yourself to other people is not helpful. Like it's really just not helpful. But it is like, well, something that I do love about social media is that it can serve as a way to highlight something that you might want for yourself. Um, you might see someone who's like, oh wow, like they went through this really hard situation
Hmm.
and they're still living their life, they're still happy, they're still adding value to other people. Like, how can I get that? Rather than being like, oh my god, like they're so much better than me or whatever it might be. Like,
Beautiful example. No,
mm,
that's such a good example. I just wanted to drop something real quick to exactly to your point. I watched this interview with Shaquille O'Neal on Drink Champs, their podcast, yesterday,
mm,
and there was like a comment that he mentioned about comparison, and he
mm,
said, I'll watch people and I'll compare, and I'm like, man, I'll see where we're different, and I'll say, I want to figure out how I can get what they have. He was talking about how like Jay-Z and some of these other artists and people would start this company or lead this new initiative. And he would be like, all right, I want to do what they're doing now. Instead of looking at it from like a jealous standpoint of, oh, well, how come they got it and I don't have it? Or I should have it right now.
right,
He's like, no, he said, I would go and I'd want to figure out how to do the work to go do what they're doing. That to me would be a healthy way, to your point, a healthy way of doing comparison. Because, and we've made this point before, like you can compare in the context of maybe things like we're the same age, we seem like we're maybe at similar points in life. You could try to make that case, but always remember, we're not the same people.
right,
We all started at different points. We all have different life circumstances that we're going through. So when you do try to make that comparison in your mind, understand it's not fully going to make sense. Because I'm not Carlos and he's not me. So I can't put myself on his trajectory and say, well, why I'm not doing what he's doing, or him saying, why is he not doing what I'm doing? We're all different people, no matter how similar we may be. So I think it's important to understand that fact. So if we are looking at somebody else and whatever they got going on, maybe instead of looking at it from any type of jealousy or envy, we look and say, you know what? I'm hoping to be inspired by what I see and say, how can I maybe try to get on a path of what they have? Or how can I maybe adopt some of the things that they're doing into my own life? And then let's see what happens.
right. And I think we live in this society that's so caught up in results
Mm-hmm.
that I want that result. Where I believe we should prioritize more the process, the work that it took to get there, and ask
Mm-hmm.
yourself, is that something that I want? Is that the life that I want to live? Like for example, Shaquille O'Neal and like maybe looking at JC, he could have won two ways. He could have been like, I want to be a billionaire.
Yep.
Okay, that's the result. Cool. Do you know what it took JC to become a billionaire? Are you willing? Are you willing and open? And is that the life that you want to live? Because I can assure you, I've heard JC say this himself. He had to literally not take a vacation for like 6 years. There's so many things that he had to do, be away from his family for months and months on end,
Yeah.
sleepless nights, all this stuff that he had to do to achieve the result. Is that the life that you want to live? So when we
Correct.
actually like look at the process, or even if you don't, because especially social media, a lot of people are not sharing the process. I do
No.
my best to go on there. If you see me, like I've been doing acrobatics for over 10 years, I'll share the videos of me falling on my ass and like really like failing, because I want
Yeah.
people to understand like, oh, like you want to. People tell me all the time, I want to do a backflip. I'm like, okay, can you do a back handspring? Like, are you willing to do 100 of them? Like, are you willing to do the process? Are you going to be doing the stretching? Are you going to be doing the strength work? Because
Mm-hmm.
it's not just like, okay, I don't know how to do a backflip. I'm going to do a backflip tomorrow. No, like it's our process. Are you
Yeah.
open and willing to go through that process? And honestly, you might even realize that that's not something that you want. Like once you go through the
Correct.
process, like you'll
Absolutely.
get to the process and you're like, honestly, like I don't really care that much about being a billionaire, like or whatever, or getting a backflip or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
But let's emphasize and prioritize more the process and the work that it took to get that result and the result itself. We can
Absolutely.
have it like, and acknowledge the fact that that does seem like something that I would like, maybe that maybe is really important though.
Mm-hmm.
We should definitely if it's a celebrity or something, we can look into their life and how they live it, look at interviews, learn more about them. If you're someone that's within our reach, I would highly recommend reaching out to them and asking them. Most people are really open to tell you a little bit more about what they went through to get to where they are.
Right.
You can reach out to them, especially through social media nowadays. I have mentors who I literally became my mentors because I reach out to them and I'm like, hey, like I love what you're doing with health and fitness and behavior analysis. Can you tell me more about your process? Can you tell me a little bit more about your story? How do you get there? And I've learned so much just because I really made an effort to focus on that process more than the result. And I realized honestly that I didn't want the result that they got. Now I'm like, oh, actually, I want this. But I learned so much in that through our process. So overall, like, definitely, I think that's something that as a society overall, is something that we need to work on. And it really all starts with us really making that shift, in my opinion.
No, man, I think it's big facts. I even wanted to add to that point because I think about it from like the parenting perspective as well. One concern I do have, this is a legitimate concern that I have, especially because with the young people that I do work with, is to your point about there being very results oriented. It's like we live in this society now where everything is very instant. You can instantly go viral. You can instantly watch what you want to watch. You can instantly listen to what you want to. I grew up in a different time. For those of you who don't know, I'm 35 years old. I grew up before social media was a thing. I grew up when we still had landlines. I grew up with dial-up internet, AOL, discs. It's a different time, right? I came at a time where it was the end of the old school era, so to speak, and then beginning of technology really starting to burst. And I say that because I feel very differently about the way I see the way young people are today. I think one thing that's very difficult, I'm gonna give you a clinical point now. For a lot of young people, when we're young, right, when we're teenagers, impulsivity is very high. Okay, wanting to be impulsive, I want to do this now. That's natural, right? We all naturally go through that, especially in high school, hormones, everything, right? Puberty. That's natural. There's nothing wrong with that. But what I notice now is we also have a society with the conditions around it also preaching impulsivity. Do this now. I don't like this. Switch it out again. I used to give this example, like my son, it would irritate me sometimes where he wouldn't want to watch the same thing. He would literally watch like 5 minutes and then jump to another show and then jump to another show. And I was like, hold on. Stop. Just stop. You're giving yourself like information overload. You need to like learn to sit with this one thing, patience. Then you can move to the next thing. Don't keep changing in the middle of something because you're not teaching yourself to learn how to be resilient, to be patient. You're teaching yourself that when I don't like something, I just quit and then I move on. Or I switch it up and then I move on. So one legitimate concern I have when I think about young people nowadays is the issue of not being willing to kind of go through that process as you were describing. You may learn a lot about yourself, I would make the case as well. And you determine if you even want to go down that path, if you even want to become that type of person. But you won't know if you don't go through it. But if all I want is immediate results, right, then I'm never going to really figure out who I am at the same time. Because all I want to see is me, the millionaire, the entrepreneur, the family person, whatever it is. And the fact of the matter is none of us figure those things out without going through that journey. That is the most important part. I give you another example for those that go to college or that want to go to college one day, because I had this conversation with my cousin recently. When you look at your diploma, this is my thought. I don't know, you might have a different thought. I always think about the journey. The paper doesn't matter. It's what it represents. It represents all the nights that you had to study hard, the nights that maybe you had to work hard, the days where you didn't have enough food to eat or you were broke and you had to figure out how you were going to make it to the end of the month. It represents all of the time that elapsed, that passed by while you were in pursuit of that thing. For those that want to build a business or you're trying to grow a brand or whatever, when you get to wherever that moment is for yourself, then you go and you look back and you're like, wow, look at what I went through to get to this point, right? I don't want like to go viral and then be like, oh, all these people start following you. It's like, no, appreciate each incremental step in the process. That's what makes it worthwhile. That's what makes it have value,
Right.
right? Not just, there you go, I made you a millionaire tomorrow. Then you don't appreciate any part of it because you didn't have to put in a lot of work to earn it. So that's a legitimate concern that I'm really trying to learn how to address, even getting ready for my own son, because he's still young, but I'm trying to learn how to address that maybe in some different ways. But these are things that I see, because I see, you know, society's evolving with technology. And I think it's something we have to be very aware of, maybe in our day-to-day life, is maybe that's why sometimes it's difficult for us to have patience or to be a good listener. Because everything we want now, I can order my food now. I want Amazon Prime now. The Uber's here now. Netflix, change the show now. I need to learn how to be patient. Everything doesn't come immediately. You got to learn how we call delayed gratification. You put in work. That's what Carlos was just saying about doing a backflip. You put in work and then more work and then more work. And eventually you get to this thing that you said that you wanted.